So I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can be. My name is Warren Montgomery. I'm the District Attorney for Washington and St. Tammany parishes. And I'm here to talk to you about a very, very serious public security issue that we are facing in St. Tammany Parish. And there are a couple of principles that I just want to go over with you. And some of these you're very aware of, but maybe some of you aren't. In order to reduce crime or to stop crime, there are 4 steps. You have to detect crime, detection. You have to apprehend the criminal, apprehension. You have to prosecute the criminal, prosecution. And then you have to sanction the criminal. And that's the sentencing or whatever the judge determines the sentence to be. So all of us participate in that part, which we call the detection, right? We call the police when we see something happen, or the police on their own recognize that some criminal offense has been committed. That's the first step. The second step is, of course, the apprehension. And that's principally the role of the police, law enforcement, the sheriff, the local police. The third step is prosecution. That is the role of the DA and exclusively the role of the district attorney. And that's exclusively my role. And of course, the last is the sanction, the penalty phase. And that's the judge has the largest responsibility, although I have a responsibility also with regards to the sanction. So each one of those steps forms, so to speak, links in a chain. And if any one of those links is broken, then the chain doesn't work. If we don't detect crime, we can't stop it. If the criminal isn't apprehended, it can't be held accountable. If the DA doesn't prosecute, it doesn't work. And finally, if the person, all those things take place, but the person isn't sanctioned, there's no penalty, then crime pays and people continue to commit crimes. There are 2 other aspects that are very, very important. And but let me get back to this for a second. So it's often said by law enforcement that their arrests are only as good as a DA's prosecutions. And as a matter of fact, if crime is detected or apprehended, or the criminal is apprehended, but the prosecutor doesn't do his job, or the judge didn't do their job, then the police are just spinning their wheels and wasting their time. So that's a general principle that we need to keep in mind as I go forward in this brief talk. The next important part is that my office is funded in St. Tammany Parish by St. Tammany Parish government, and my budget has been cut in half. I guess I'm out of time.
No, please continue.
I'll try to be as brief as possible. My budget is cut in half. Jefferson Parish, their parish council gave them $13.8 million this past year for 2022, this coming year. My budget, which was approved but wasn't accepted, was for $6.5 million. The parish cut it in half to 3.3 because he didn't have enough money. So my funding has been cut in half, and 85% of my expenses are salaries and benefits. It's personnel. That's what my expenses are, 85%. So my income to pay salaries has been cut in half. Meanwhile, because of COVID, the number of cases that I could prosecute has doubled. All right. All of you, if accused of crime, you have a right to a jury trial, a felony crime. Well, when COVID hit 2 years ago, we couldn't have felony trials. And so that inventory, if you would, of pending felony trials increased. In fact, it doubled. So I now have half as much money and twice the workload. And you know what would happen if you went to the teachers in one of the school and said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, or Mr. or Mrs. Teacher, you have twice as many students and I'm cutting your pay in half. Your teachers would leave. That's what's happened to the district attorney's office. I am hemorrhaging, I'm bleeding quality prosecutors. When I lose quality prosecutors, it's the same thing as if you lost quality teachers. The system wouldn't function. You've got to have quality teachers. And if you don't have them, it's a complete breakdown of your school system. We are having a breakdown of that prosecution system. And if the prosecution system is broken, then the rest of it isn't going to work either. That's where we are. So what can we do about that? Well, I've come forward with a proposal, and it's listed on a sheet of paper that each one of you have, and on the back of it is the specific language of the proposition. It's a 0.14% sales tax, which will generate approximately $8 million for the DA's office. If that tax does not pass, I'm going to suffer, and I say I'm going to suffer, we as a community are going to suffer the consequences of that. We know why people live in St. Tammany Parish, our quality of life. And the two principal ingredients in that quality of life are security, public safety, and the school system. If this continues, if that tax fails, our quality of life is going to be directly impacted because our public security is going to be directly impacted and it's going to decline. So this election is on April 30th. I'm here to ask you to please read this letter, to consider my comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. I can tell you at the end of last year, I got to tour the Justice Center and the jail. And I can tell you, if the average voter saw what I saw that day, it would be 100% pass rate, because we definitely want to keep everybody there and put more in. It was a rough tour on the right side of the glass. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I appreciate what you do in our community. And I appreciate all the teachers, the silent heroes of our community. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and I'd like to respond to those questions. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir. Montgomery.